All rise. Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. The Blount County Legislative Body, Jerome Moon, Chairman, presiding. All persons having business with this honorable commission, draw near, give attention, and ye shall be heard. God save the United States of America, the state of Tennessee, and this honorable commission. And now, the Reverend Toby Downey, pastor of Salem Baptist Church, will lead us in prayer.
Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Father God, we thank you so much for the opportunity to be given the responsibility of government. And Lord, I'm thankful for what your word says, that upon his shoulder this government rides. And though these men and women, Lord God, they bear the burden of this government, I pray, Lord, that they be borne in your hand, guided by your Spirit, Lord, and ever seeking to discern your will, that we could be led by them in an upright manner, that we could be led by them to follow you. And God, I thank you, Lord, for the freedoms that we experience to follow you in this nation. And I thank you, God, that I can't discount them in this county. And I would, God, tonight that you would just allow this committee, this commission, Lord, to seek you, that all things would be accomplished for your glory, for your honor and your praise. I beg these things, asking forgiveness, giving you thanks in all things. In Jesus' name, and amen. Amen.
The Cub Scout Pack 285 will lead us in the pledge of allegiance on the American flag. Thank you. You may be seated.
This time, I'd like to welcome everyone to the December 20, 2012 Blount County Board of Commissioners meeting. Thank you, Reverend Downey, for this evening's prayer. And on behalf of the Commission, the Chair would like to thank Cub Scout Pack 285 for the presentation of colors. This time, we'll read the emergency evacuation procedure. In the event of an emergency evacuation, alarm will sound. Everyone should exit the building by way of the nearest stairwell in a safe and effective manner. If the nearest stairwell is blocked by smoke, use the other stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you've reached the main floor, follow the exit signs to exit the building and quickly proceed away from the building, being mindful of others evacuating and of emergency vehicles. At this time, if the commissioners would register your presence by voting yes.
You have 21 present, 0 absent, and you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This time, the chair will stand for a motion to set the agenda. Commissioner Lambert moves. Commissioner Carver seconds. Discussion. Commissioner French, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I respectfully request that item F7 be pulled from the agenda, please.
There's a request for F7 to be removed from the agenda without objection. Hearing no objection, item F7 is removed. Commissioner Burkhalter, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In regard to item F4, we're to take action on the contract, but we don't have a copy of the contract in our packet tonight, I respectfully request that we move F4 to the January meeting so we have a copy of the contract before we vote on it.
Your request is to remove it from tonight's agenda without objection.
Mr. Chairman,
Recognize Commissioner Lambert.
will the service be interrupted?
I do not know.
Then I object.
You object. Commissioner Burkhalter, you place that in the form of a motion to remove?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move to remove item F4 from the agenda because we're voting on a contract that we don't have a contract to read tonight, so we're voting on something we've never read.
You've made the motion. Is there a second to the motion? Second. Mr. Folks, second. Discussion on the motion to remove. Commissioner Burkhalter, you're recognized again, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I understand that we're entering into a one-year contract, but we don't have a contract in our packet, so I kind of find it hard to vote on something that we haven't been able to read unless and that's my reason for asking it to be moved from tonight's agenda and forwarded to January.
Commissioner Folks, you're recognized for discussion. You just turned yourself off.
That light was on for something else.
Commissioner Samples, you're recognized, sir.
You have a problem with this. I mean, we vote on contracts all the time for copiers and for other things, and all we have is the amount that it's going down. We do that in the Budget Committee, and we certainly have the amount. It lessens the amount that we're paying for this annual contract for better service. And we've done this before with copier contracts, so what's the problem now? That's just my observation.
Commissioner Lambert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If this is going to interrupt the service at the center, then I vigorously oppose it. We're right in the midst of doing rescues, our rescue runs, our puppy runs to Minnesota, New York, Vermont, vetting, having animal shows all over Blount County, and we've got to have telephone service.
I believe this contract, if I remember, the Budget Committee is asking, and the TCA quote given in the resolution is to renew it for 1 year, extending beyond the end of this fiscal year, June 30, which would make it a December to December contract. So I may be in error, but I think it runs through June 30. So
It is a reduction. I don't have to be against saving money.
are the members ready for the question? The motion is to remove F4 from the agenda. Vote yes to remove the resolution. Vote no to allow it to stay on the agenda. Please vote.
Mr. Mayor, your voting was mine.
Oh. Commissioner Burkhalter chairs the agenda committee, and
There you go.
the vote is 5 yes, 14 no, 2 abstain. Motion fails. It will be included on tonight's agenda, F4. Clear the board, please. Rhonda, have him clear the board. Chair apologizes. The clerk has sick tonight. Deputy Clerk Pitts is filling in. The IT director is away. Bear with us. Thank you, Ms. Clark. The pending motion now is to set the agenda with item F7 removed. Mr. Folks, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to request that item F2, A, B, and C, all the budget increases be considered separately.
The chair will entertain that request when we get to that item of business. We'll see what the body's pleasure is. The pending motion is to set the agenda, removing item F7. Are the members ready for the question? Vote yes to set the agenda, vote no not to set. Setting the agenda with F7 removed, sir. Removed, which is the Custer Drive resolution. Commissioner Folks. Twenty yes, 1 no. The agenda is set. Moving to agenda item B, consent calendar. Chair will stand for a motion to approve the consent calendar. Mr. Carver moves. Ms. Lambert seconds. Discussion. Are the members ready for the question? Vote yes to approve the consent calendar. Vote no not to approve.
You have 21 yes and 0 no.
21 yes, 0 no. The consent calendar is approved. Moving to agenda item C, public input on items on the agenda. At this time, on item F5, is there anyone here who would like to speak for the adoption of the resolution? You'd like to speak to adopt the resolution, sir? No, I'd like for anyone here who would like to speak to the positive to adopt the resolution. If you would, raise your hand. Seeing no hands. On item F5, is there anyone here who would like to speak against adopting the resolution who has not spoken at the public hearing or has spoken at the agenda meeting? Ms. Miller, if you come forward, please. Just a moment.
Karen Miller, District 4. I didn't speak at the agenda meeting against...
Well, please sit down. I'll get to you next. Is there anyone here who hasn't spoken at the public hearing or the agenda meeting?
I have not spoken.
Okay, you didn't speak at the
I
agenda.
have not spoken at the meeting.
Okay, please proceed.
That's why I'm addressing it tonight.
Thank you.
I was very pleased with all the people that presented their point of views about being against the campgrounds. I've spoken previously the other years against this campground issue, but I didn't this year. I came in and there was so many good things that were being said I didn't need to speak because everything I had I was going to address, they addressed for me. And I don't see how anybody could possibly be for these campgrounds. If you're interested for your children's future, your neighbor's future, their property values not to be decreased, the insanity of putting a campground on roads that aren't equipped to handle these campers, and to make our neighbors put up with noise and lighting. 250 campers on 10 acres, 10 feet apart from each other is nothing but a fire hazard. We have a beautiful county. We do not need to be destroying it with this insanity for special interest group, for certain families that maybe have a desire to have a campground. Why should the whole county suffer for this? It is not feasible to do this. And the lady that spoke that lived on Old Walland Highway, where her property oversees a terrible campground, where things aren't the way they should be for a public campground. She said it all as far as I'm concerned. And I hope this body does away with this once and for all. We do not need campgrounds in the rural areas. Thank you.
At this time, on item F5, is there anyone here who has spoken against adopting the resolution and would like to modify or change their remarks? Please raise your hand. Okay. Anyone else who would like to speak F5? Raise your hand. Will you come forward, sir? Mr. Hutchins. Mr. Hutchins. If you'll come forward. Yes, sir.
Basically, I'm Larry Campbell.
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
And I'd like to address some safety issues I have on F5. Testing of the groundwater at some of the campgrounds has found dangerous chemicals years after their disposal. Maybe that is why the design guidelines and construction for RV parks recommends them to be connected to a public water source to ensure a healthy water source and connected to public sewer system to prevent contamination of the groundwater. Please note the Center for Disease Control and Prevention recommends any private water system serving more than 25 people be checked on a regular basis to ensure water safety. But I do not see this requirement within the regulation. As I said before, most of these RVs are driven by drivers who do not operate them on a daily basis. Both the U.S. Department of Transportation and Tennessee Department allows these RVs to be 8 foot 6 inches wide with an allowable additional exception of 3 inches on each side for mirrors and steps. Therefore, if 2 of these RVs traveling in different directions met on an 18-foot wide road, they would have a clearance of 1 foot between them or 6 inches between their mirrors. How many of us can judge 6-inch clearance at 30 miles an hour? Note, this clearance does not allow for any overhanging trees or rocks. And noting that within the zoning regulations of Sevier County, travel trailer parks are only permitted within the Commercial 1 district on collector streets of 50 to 60 feet wide. Therefore, do you believe the 18-foot access road to these campgrounds is adequate? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank all the commissioners for giving me a chance to speak on this issue, and Merry Christmas to everybody.
And your name is, sir, for the record?
My name is Brad Ansley.
Yes, sir.
I live on the Happy Valley Road down in South Blount County. I've been to a whole lot of these meetings. I've never heard anybody speak in favor of these campgrounds in R1 zones. RV parks and campgrounds are high-density commercial developments and should be confined to commercial zones. It's really just that simple. R1 zones were intended to protect citizens from the increased density of people and vehicles, which is exactly what these kinds of developments would bring to our low-density and rural areas. Noise, lights, traffic, water supply, sewage, and from so many people and vehicles in a rural area or community can present major nuisance and environmental degradation and the destruction of our quality of life. Also, what will it do to the property values of our neighbors? Is it the sort of thing you would want to have in your backyard? When you consider the scope of this proposal and the acreage of the county that could be affected, it becomes obvious how invasive this bill is and how adversely it would affect vast areas of the county. The proposed locations for these changes are the very scenic corridors that the Hunter Growth Study said were imperative to protect from sprawl. As written, this bill would allow for developments that resemble mobile home parks much more than recreational campgrounds. This proposal has not been thought out with the general population in mind. It is fraught with negative unintended consequences and ignores the principles of quality growth, which the Raven Society and a majority of Blount County citizens support. The Planning Commission needs to go back and start from scratch on this issue. Thank you.
Continue with input on items on the agenda. Does anyone wish to address other items on the agenda other than F5? Ms. King?
I'm Linda King with Citizens for Blount County's Future. I live in District 4. There are two things on the agenda tonight which should be voted down. First, of course, is the recurring campground resolution. Second is the approval to apply for a grant for the covered pedestrian bicycle bridge in Townsend. The funding for this grant, originally pushed through by Governor Sundquist in the late 90s, was pulled by Governor Bredesen. Not surprisingly, Governor Sundquist lives in Townsend, and again we see this request for a waste of taxpayer monies. $300,000 to cover a bridge which was built in the early 1900s and has been deemed unsafe. That's why we built a new one for vehicle traffic. Now we're apparently willing to spend state money as well as $57,000 from our local budget to put a roof over a dilapidated structure. While we're $250 million in debt, we're preparing to fund a pet project for the tourists on a Plan ET regional greenway. On Tuesday night at our Citizens for Blount County's Future meeting, I stated that Townsend expects a large portion of our property tax money which should be used to benefit the community as a whole and to subsidize the priorities of all citizens. I mentioned that Townsend gets money for the Heritage Center, a nonprofit, which should have been cut, for their visitor center, their bike trails, and now a covered bridge. I said that next we'll see them requesting money for the Laurel Lake project, which is being pushed by the same people who want campground approval. Well, guess what Little Lake was covered by an article in the Daily Times today? Maybe Townsend should worry more about their gateway to the Smokies, where the tourists are welcome with a parking lot full of porta potties. It's time that tax money be used for all areas, not just one commission district. Preferably, it's time that tax money be used to pay off our debt and not spent on pet projects at all. One commissioner mentioned that while traveling, he looks for covered bridges. I doubt very much that a bicycle bridge would draw his interest. Travelers look for historically built wooden bridges that they can drive over, much like those in the Amish communities, not those that you'd have to park and walk across. If this bridge is approved, the new tourist board should be looking for local businesses to fund and maintain it. They may benefit, but we taxpayers won't. Commissioner Samples just said, why would we not want to save money? How could you be against it? Well, now's the time to start saving money. Let's pay our debt down, and let's not be spending money out of our general fund. Thank you.
Next item of business is D1. The chair will stand for a motion on the reappointment of Clarence Williams to the Blount County Memorial Hospital Board. Motion was by Burkhalter. Second, Farmer. The motion is to reappoint Clarence Williams to the Blount County Board of Directors. Discussion. Are the members ready for the question? Vote yes to reappoint. Vote no not to reappoint.
I have 20 yes and 1 abstain.
20 yes, 1 abstain. Mr. Williams is reappointed. Next item of business, D2. Chair will stand for a motion on the reappointment of Susan Keller to the Blount Memorial Hospital Board of Directors. Mr. Samples moves. Mr. Gamble seconds. The motion is to reappoint Susan Keller to the Blount Memorial Hospital Board of Directors. Discussion. Are the members ready for the question? Vote yes to reappoint. Vote no not to reappoint. Please vote.
I have 10 yes, 6 no, and 5 abstain.
5 abstain. Ms. Keller is not reappointed. Next item of no business under agenda item E. Next item of business is F1A. The chair will stand for a motion on item F1A, budget transfer in the Highway Department in the amount of $23,556.
Mr. Chairman, I move
F1A and F1B. Is there a second? The motion is to approve the budget transfers F1A and F1B. Is that correct? Discussion? Are the members ready for the question? The motion is to approve the budget transfers. Vote yes to approve. Vote no not to approve.
Now 21 yes and 0 no.
The budget transfers are approved. The next item of business is F2A. The chair will stand for a motion on F2A, Resolution 12-12010, to amend the general county fund budget by $102,467.23. I hear a motion? Mr. Lewis moves. Mr. Farmer seconds. The motion is to adopt Resolution 12-12010. Discussion? Are the members ready for the question? Vote yes to adopt the resolution. Vote no not to adopt.
Now 21 yes, 0 no.
The resolution is adopted. Next item of business is F2B. The chair will stand for a motion on F2B, Resolution 12-12011, to amend other capital project fund budget by $57,306.76. Mr. Lewis moves. Mr. Lael seconds. The motion is to adopt 12-12010. Mr. Folks, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This budget increase proposes to take more than $57,000 from the pockets of all county taxpayers to make an unused one-lane bridge in Townsend into a covered bridge, which some believe will be a tourist attraction. An additional $280,000 will come out of the pockets, again, of local taxpayers and taxpayers all around the state, for a total of $330,000. We were told in the Agenda Committee that if the bridge is not covered quickly, it will likely fall down, which will require a demolition, which will cost more than $330,000. We were also told the bridge was declared unsafe for vehicle traffic several years ago, and that the bridge was built in 1915. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to direct a few questions to Mr. Vineyard.
Ask the chair, please, sir. Second question.
The first question is, do you have an estimated cost from an engineering firm for tearing down the bridge?
Mr. Vineyard, you're recognized.
No.
Mr. Folks.
So that leads me to wonder what the basis for this teardown cost is, if we don't have an engineering evaluation of what the cost would be. Second question. In view of the fact that the bridge was declared unsafe for vehicular traffic, do we have an analysis from an engineering firm showing that the bridge can support the weight of the proposed cover structure?
Mr. Folks, I don't believe the budget director is qualified to answer the question. I'll put the question to Mr. Vineyard if he has possession of such a study.
I do not.
Mr. Folks, you're recognized.
By law, the finance director is supposed to review, before making an expenditure, all supporting documentation.
Continue.
Another question. Do you have any report from an engineering firm showing how much longer the bridge is likely to last if we put this $330,000 cover on it?
Mr. Vineyard, you're recognized.
No. That leads me to then ask, is it fiscally responsible to be spending money we can't afford with almost no factual information on whether this project is viable? I don't think many of our citizens would spend $330,000 for a house with so little information in writing. You recently told me that next year's budget process, that we're starting next year's budget process nearly $5 million in the hole. This means that we will need every penny we can find to avoid a very nasty tax increase. We should not be spending more than $57,000 on something we cannot afford, no matter how nice it would be for a few towns and businesses. If the main purpose of this project is to create a tourist attraction, why isn't the money coming from the Tourism Authority rather than, and their taxes, which are paid by the tourists, rather than from the hard-earned money of our citizens? Thank you.
Commissioner Merle. Commissioner Merle, you're recognized.
Yes, and I'm just wondering, can we get some of this information before we vote on this and make a decision? I mean, this is just covering the top portion. If the bottom is not stable enough to hold it, I would like to know that before we make the investment and then have to come back and maybe do additional repairs on it. Is that something? I mean, I don't know who would get it, Mr. Chairman. I don't know who, but I'm requesting that information.
Thank you. Commissioner Lambert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 20 of the 21 commissioners sitting up here have a vested interest in this county. We're natives. This is part of our heritage. It's part of something that we want to save. And I don't know where Mr. Foots is getting $300,000. He loves to throw numbers around.
Don't refer to people by name. Continue.
Okay, the gentleman, the man from Louisville or Friendsville or wherever he lives, is always objecting to anything that
Commissioner
pertains.
Lambert, Commissioner Wright, you're recognized.
I think I may be able to clarify this with some of it with the help of Mr. Vineyard, but basically one of the questions asked was, has there been any engineering firms or anybody else look at that bridge? Well, the answer is yes. We've had 2 construction firms to look at it. We've also asked Mr. Dunlap what it would cost to remove that bridge, and we're getting estimates of $300,000 to $800,000 because that is a Class 2 river. And you have to use, you can't get anything into that river, period. So it has to be done in a very expensive manner. Now, we've already, in the previous commissioners, approved this money out of the budget. And I think it's $30-some thousand that we have appropriated for it. The mayor is transferring $17,000 out of his budget. Now, I'll go one step farther. Through the efforts of the tax assessor's office and the ad hoc committee, we're now receiving $75,000 more in tax revenue than we did in the previous years. And it's directly related to the hotel motel industry. And it would more than take care of any extra expense, no expense, if you want to look at it that way, to the taxpayers. This would be an icon, to say the least, and the research that some of the committee's done, one of the outstanding things, especially in Elizabethton, their main attraction is a covered bridge. So will it attract tourism and help us? You dad blame right it will. Thank you.
Commissioner Carver, you're recognized, sir.
On this bridge, you know, I've been surprised at the emails and phone calls that I've gotten in support of this bridge being covered. The people that live here want to preserve a bit of our heritage. This is a bridge that really transformed getting into that area, and it is a historic site in the people that are from this community. It's something that we do need to seriously look at preserving, changing it from an eyesore to an asset. But there's been a lot of people that have left messages I've talked to, I've had emails in support of having this bridge completed. And I just wanted to add that to it.
Commissioner Harrison, you're recognized, sir.
Just saying something along the lines that Commissioner Carver was saying. I've had overwhelming response.
Have order, please. Be seated.
I've had overwhelming response for this bridge. And as having lived here in Blount County all my life, I was surprised I haven't heard one negative thing from one of my constituents until tonight. Surprise, surprise. I can truly tell you by the response of my constituents in Mentor, Louisville, or Alcoa, overwhelmingly the Blount County citizens are for this bridge. This vote tonight would get this started and get these reports that we need and the whole 9 yards. So I just like to add that, you know, we are listening to what the Blount County citizens want.
Commissioner Merle, you're recognized.
Yes, I agree. I've had nothing but positive, and our county is based on history and tourism, especially in that area, and Townsend has nothing to do with it. In other words, that's not a negative for Townsend. They're part of the county too. What I'm asking for is that, and I don't see any documentation, is that bridge able to hold a new covered, and maybe that's part of the engineering report, which is not in there, so I don't know. That's what I'm asking about. Maybe someone on the budget committee knows that, or someone else can answer that.
Commissioner Folks, you're recognized for the second time, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The bottom line here is we need a few facts before we spend $330,000. If all of these estimates from these construction companies on what it would cost to tear this thing down are available, why aren't they in our package? And if we have estimates, if we have any kind of engineering evaluation that we're not going to build this thing and it's going to fall down a year or two later because the underlying structure isn't good enough, why aren't those in our package? We ought to be spending $330,000 with a few facts in front of us. And those facts aren't available. And I don't see how we can vote for something with no facts available. It's nice for somebody to just stand up and say, well, so-and-so looked at it and he said it would cost this. That's not the way the world works. You get written reports before you spend $330,000. None of us would build a house on a bunch of people coming around saying, oh yeah, that'll cost about that, without any paperwork to back it up? I don't think so.
Mr. Kaler, excuse me, I'm sorry. Mr. Kaler hasn't spoke to the issue. Recognize Commissioner Kaler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to ask Mr. Dunlap a question. If that's,
State your question, sir. Go ahead. You state the question to the chair. Go ahead, and I'll.
Thank you.
You'll hear.
Mr. Dunlap, I know that you are very familiar with dealing with contracts and grants and the such. Would I be safe in saying that what we're voting on is to allow for the grant to be requested. And I applied for. And would I also be safe in saying that the state is not going to approve said grant if the bridge does not meet the criteria?
Mr. Dunlap.
Yes, you're correct.
Okay. Have you looked at the bridge? Do you have any?
I'm aware of the bridge, I know, and it's got a poor rating. Correct, Mr. Foltz, it was not deemed unsafe for vehicle traffic. The bridge has got a poor rating due to the fact that it's a one-lane bridge. It's structurally sound. It's always been structurally sound. The architectural firm that did the actual drawings for this cover prior to the state pulling that grant done the evaluation on it, and it will definitely hold the structure itself.
So to the best of your knowledge, that if we apply for this grant and we receive the grant, that no monies are going to be expelled from Blount County taxpayers or state taxpayers if the state does not deem the bridge to be suitable for such action?
No, sir. They will not put any of their money into it if it will not hold, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Dunlap.
Thank you, Mr. Dunlap. Mr. Wright, you're recognized for the second time.
I guess this question is for Mr. Dunlap, sir.
All the questions are to the chair.
I'm sorry, sir.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize. And I guess my question is, I don't think there's anybody more qualified in this county that would be able to give us an estimate and/or any repairs or anything else about a bridge than Mr. Dunlap. And my question is, at some point in time, I know we may or may not have to tear that bridge down, and so my question is to Mr. Dunlap, what would be his estimated cost of tearing that bridge down?
Mr. Dunlap, you're recognized.
With the permits and everything going to be involved in it, again, stating that is our stream we get the majority of our drinking water out of. A minimum would be at least $300,000, and it could go up to whatever.
I'm sorry, how much?
A minimum of at least $300,000 and could go to whatever.
Thank you. Commissioner Farmer, you recognize.
Call for the previous question, Mr. Chairman.
Call been made for the previous question. Is there a second? Mr. Melton seconds. All in favor of the previous question say aye. Aye. Opposed? The pending motion is to adopt Resolution 12-12010. Vote yes to adopt the resolution. Vote no not to adopt. Mr. Hasty, Mr. Burkhalter.
You have 20 yes and 1 no.
20 yes, 1 no. The resolution is adopted. Next item of business, F2C. Chair will stand for motion on F2C. Resolution 12-12012 to amend the general county fund budget by $17,787.47. Mr. Lewis moves. Is there a second? Mr. Wright seconds. Motion is to adopt Resolution 12-12012. Discussion. Members ready for the question? Vote yes to adopt the resolution. Vote no not to adopt.
You have 20 yes and 1 no.
20 yes, 1 no. The resolution is adopted. Moving on to the next item of business is F3. The chair will stand for motion on F3, Resolution 12-12002. A resolution authorizing submission of application for the Townsend Covered Bridge Project grant. Ms. Lambert moves. Mr. Carver seconds. The motion is to adopt Resolution 12-12002. Discussion? Are the members ready for the question? Vote yes to adopt the resolution. Vote no not to adopt.
You have 20 yes and 1 no.
20 yes, 1 no. The resolution's adopted. Moving to the next item, F4. Chair will stand for a motion on item F4, Resolution 12-12003. Resolution authorizing an annual commitment for telephone service for the Blount County Animal Care Center under TCA Section 5-14-108. Mr. Samples moves. Mr. Gamble seconds. Motions to adopt Resolution 12-12003. Mr. Farmer, you're recognized.
I had one short question wanted to ask a while ago. Who is the service currently with, and who are we changing it to?
Mr. Vineyard, do you know the answer to that question? I believe Mr. Samples would know the answer to that question.
Yeah,
Chair's
charter.
here.
It's an improvement in charter service, which allows.
So we aren't changing vendors?
Excuse me?
Mr.
Charter.
Chairman, that was just my thing. I just wanted to know if we are changing from one vendor to another one, did we in fact put it out for bid, and is that why we were changing it? That was my only question I had a
understand
while
that
ago.
the resolution is authorizing an annual commitment, moving the expiration date from June 30 to next December. Am I in there, Mr. Samples?
That is correct, for additional service with that vendor, for a voicemail, because the citizens are, the voicemail system's stacking up and they're not being able to get through. This allows it to handle more voicemail.
Thank you. Commissioner Farmer, does that take care of your question, sir? Any other question, any further discussion? Members ready for the question? Vote yes to adopt the resolution. Vote no not to adopt.
You have 19 yes and 2 abstain.
19 yes, 2 abstain. Resolution is adopted. Next item of business, F5. Chair will stand for motion on F5. Resolution 12-12004, resolution to amend the zoning resolution of Blount County by adding a new section, 7.18, design standards for commercial campgrounds, recreational vehicle parks. Amend section 9.1B, 9.2B, 9.3B to include commercial campgrounds, recreational vehicle parks, and to amend section 13 to include definitions for camping cabins and commercial campgrounds. Mr. Wright moves. Do I have a second? Mr. Kirby seconds. The motion is to adopt Resolution 12-12004. Mr. Wright, you're recognized, sir.
Commissioners.
Get your turn on. Hold on.
Commissioners, if you'll allow me, I'd like to move that we send this back to the Planning Commission. Apparently, there's some serious concerns with this.
We have a motion to commit back to the Planning Commission. Is there a second? Motion to refer back to Planning by Commissioner Wright, second by Commissioner Kirby. Discussion on the motion to refer. One moment. I see no lights. Are the members ready for the question? Commissioner Lael has called for the question. Is there a second call for the question? Second. All in favor of the previous question say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Nay. We have one nay. We'll move to immediate vote on, we're voting on a motion to refer this item back to the Planning Commission. Vote yes to refer back to the Planning Commission. Vote no, not to refer back. Please vote.
You have 5 yes, 16 no.
The motion to refer fails. The pending motion is to adopt Resolution 12-12004. Commissioner Folks, you're now recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This zoning resolution would permit commercial RV parks in residential zones. This is the 5th time this issue's come before us. The last time, even the sponsors of the resolution voted against it. We are being told this version addresses the comments we have heard in the 4 previous public hearings. This is simply not the case. Let's consider just a few of the issues that are not addressed by this resolution. It permits RV parks in R1 residential zones. The citizens have repeatedly told us they don't want commercial RV parks in residential zones. This resolution permits up to 250 RVs to be located on just 10 acres, 10 feet apart. The RVs are permitted to stay up to 210 days. Our citizens told us they do not think that this fulfills the stated goal of this regulation to provide, and I'm quoting, quality designed RV parks. One citizen told me that she thinks jamming all of these RVs on 10 acres sounds more like an RV ghetto. The fire hazard implications of just 10 feet between vehicles with large tanks of fuel and propane systems that are sometimes poorly maintained are also concerns to our citizens. This resolution permits the location of these commercial RV parks up to 3,000 feet off our main roads on feeder roads that are only 18 feet wide. Now, an RV is 8.5 foot wide. When the mirrors are extended, you got another foot on either side. So that's 10.5 foot. Times 2 is 21 foot. With a foot between them, and you've got two 40,000-pound vehicles going by each other, you need at least a foot. That's 22 feet. That's not 18 feet, it's 22 feet. Doesn't work. And oh, by the way, if one of those vehicles happens to be a school bus, we really ought to think about that. Before we put 250 of these things going in and out of an RV park on a feeder road on a weekend. This resolution also requires that the entrance to the RV park provide a 50-foot turning radius to accommodate large RVs. However, it does not require that the curves on the feeder roads to the RV park provide at least this kind of turning radius, which means that these RVs could be forced into the opposing lane. That's not real attractive to the citizens driving on those roads. So yes, this resolution does not accomplish its stated goals, and we should vote no. Thank you.
Commissioner Farmer, you recognize, sir?
Previous question, Mr.
Previous
Chairman.
question's been moved. Is there a second? Mr. Green seconds. All in favor of moving previous question, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pending motion now is to adopt Resolution 12-12004. Vote yes to adopt the resolution. Vote no not to adopt the resolution. Please vote. Commissioner Harrison, Commissioner Burkhalter. Do you know the pending motion, Commissioner Harrison?
You have 3 yes and 18 no.
3 yes and 18 no. The resolution is not adopted. Next item of business, F6. Next item of business is F6. The chair will stand for motion on F6 to adopt Resolution 12-12007, resolution amending Resolution 09-08-005 regarding the contract with East Tennessee Medical Group. Hear a motion? Mr. Farmer moves and Mr. Burkhalter seconds. Motion is to adopt Resolution 12-12007. Mr. Folks, you're recognized.
I didn't turn my
Okay. Are the members ready for the question? Vote yes to adopt the resolution. Vote no not to adopt.
You have 19 yes and 2 abstain.
19 yes, 2 abstained. Requires 14. The resolution's adopted. Item 7 was pulled. Moving to F8, the chair will stand for a motion on item F8, Resolution 12-12009, resolution to approve the interlocal agreement to provide smooth coordinated traffic flow between signalized intersections in Blount County, Maryville, and Alcoa.
Second.
Kaler moves. And Ms. Lambert seconds. The motion is to adopt Resolution 12-12009. Discussion. Are the members ready for the question? Vote yes to adopt the resolution. Vote no not to adopt.
You have 20 yes and 1 no.
20 yes, 1 no. The resolution's adopted. Next item of business is F9. The chair will stand for a motion on F9 to set a public hearing for January the 8th, 2013, 6:30 p.m., room 430, Blount County Courthouse, for the purpose of hearing testimony and comments regarding a rezoning from R2 to R1 for a portion of the property located at 6250 Paul Boone Road, identified on tax map 126, parcel 079.00. Ms. Lambert moves.
Second.
Ms. Carver seconds. The motion is to set a public hearing for January 8th, 6:30, room 430, Blount County Courthouse. Are the members ready for the question? Vote yes, set the public hearing. Vote no, not to set. Commissioner Merle Lewis. Commissioner Lewis.
You have 21 yes.
0 no. The public hearing is set. Next item of business. Chair will stand for a motion on item F10. Let's see. We have Mr. Farmer and we had Mr. French. Motion is to adopt Resolution 12-12006 to allow safe passage Blount County for a certain visitor in the North Pole. My hearing aid is, something's wrong. Mr. Farmer, you're recognized.
Pull it down first.
Yeah, the elf is watching.
First, Mr. Chairman, I'd like permission for my colleague, Mr. Green, to pass out Christmas candy to those in the audience while I read this.
Without objection, so ordered.
This resolution is introduced, I introduce it each year in the memory of late Commissioner Richard Williams, whom I'm sure all of you know. This resolution is to allow safe passage in Blount County, Tennessee for a certain visitor from the North Pole. Be it resolved by this Board of Commissioners of Blount County, Tennessee, in session and assembled this the 20th day of December 2012. Whereas the runways at McGee Tyson Airport have been extended, the Superintendent of Highways has worked with the Tennessee Department of Transportation on facilitating a safe landing pad in Blount County, Tennessee. And whereas the inspection of Santa's sleigh has revealed that the sleigh, while old, is in remarkable condition. And by the recommending of a proper diet and exercise throughout the year, the veterinarians of Blount County have given a clean bill of health to 8 tiny reindeer. Whereas the Blount County Sheriff's Department is willing to give of their time and effort to protect travel on December 24, and the physicians in this county have examined the portly old gentleman and found him in the best of health. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Blount County that this portly old gentleman be extended all rights, courtesies, and privileges to travel throughout this county to deliver gifts, goodwill, charity, happiness, and a jolly ho, ho, ho to all of Blount County. Be it further resolved that at a point in time called from December 24 at 6 p.m. until December 25 at 6 a.m., the Blount County Legislative Body wishes all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner French, you wish to be recognized, sir?
No, sir.
Thank you. Are the members ready for the question? Vote yes to adopt the resolution. Vote no not to adopt. Please vote.
I have 21 yes and 0 no.
21 yes, 0 no. The resolution is adopted. Moving to agenda item H, public input on items on the agenda. Mr. Hutchins, if you'll come forward, please, sir.
I always like to be positive, so I'm going to thank you for the vote to reject the ongoing. Anyway, I'm kind of nervous and kind of upset. I really don't like to stand up here and speak. If I could, I'd love to sing your praises and wish you all a Merry Christmas. But I have to say something as a citizen and as a taxpayer that has really bothered me tonight. There's a commissioner that expressed a legitimate concern that he would like to have a copy of the contract that he was voting on. And in response to his reasonable request, it was stated by another commissioner that we do this all the time, and what's the problem? And that really bothers me because what it shows to me is a lack of due diligence. 21 of you ran for office to seek this position, this responsibility, and with that responsibility to the citizens and taxpayers of this county, we have a reasonable right to expect due diligence. And I think that if a commissioner has a concern that's reasonable, that it should not be poo-pooed and said, well, hey, we do this all the time, doesn't really matter, it saves us money, we don't really need to even see. And always, as they say, it's always in the small print. There may be nothing wrong with the contract, but it's the arrogant attitude of our county commissioners who don't want to do due diligence in your responsibilities. The second thing that really bothered me is the questions about this bridge. Now, I also believe that another commissioner raised very legitimate, sincere, and reasonable questions about the lack of information and documentation. And a question that came to my mind as I was listening to this discussion is, all right, let's suppose we go ahead and build this cover over this bridge, and we find out that that bridge is not structurally sound because we don't have any documents to tell us that it is. What is our liability as a county if that bridge collapses on somebody and we didn't even bother to have an engineer give us an analysis of that because we didn't want to exercise any due diligence? The liability of not doing your job is more than just wasting our taxpayer dollars. It's the arrogant attitude, and I'm sorry to say, the arrogant attitude that this commission has toward the citizens and an unwillingness to express due diligence. There are a few exceptions, but for the most part, I'm very, very disappointed. And I wished I could end on a positive note, but I've said my piece.
At this time, I'd like to take the privilege of presenting our secretary with a small token of this commission's appreciation for what you do for us every day of the year. We thank you so much. This concludes our agenda items. Without objection, we'll stand adjourned.